All right, so good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Yud Zayin Yud Ches. So we left off at the bottom of Tes Zayin Amud Beis. Two lines at the bottom. Taner Rabbanan. I guess the cats and scenes are not here to sing, and therefore they lose out their opportunity. Would have allowed it for 30 seconds. Keitza Marakti Lifnei Akala. How does one go ahead and dance or celebrate or rejoice with a Chas and Kala? Or with the Kala. So Beis Shammai says the way the sheet is, yet the Kala Kamos Shehi, the way that she is, is if she's beautiful, you tell her she's beautiful. If she's not, you don't. Either you tell her she's not beautiful or you just don't say anything. Beis Hillel Imrim, Kala no b'chasuda. You go ahead and you say she's beautiful, she's pleasant, and everything is good. So
why, if the question is Ketzad Barakti?
Okay, Marakti doesn't necessarily mean dancing. It can be to give pleasure, right? To celebrate. Right? What if she's blind or she's lame or something's wrong with her physically? Obvious. The Torah says not to lie. It says Beis Hillel Beis Shammai l'divrei you guys mishalakach mechach rav min hashuk yesh bichena beinov or yigiena beinov. Right? Someone goes ahead and makes a new purchase. Right? You go ahead and you say, "Oh, that was a bad purchase. You overpaid or whatever it is." You do that. Samar yesh bichena beinov. Right? So you should go ahead and praise it, or even if you don't think it was that great of a purchase. A person should always be constantly, should be pleasant with other people and to be thoughtful. So therefore, obviously, someone that goes ahead and makes a big purchase, and you go ahead and you make them second guess themselves, that's not too properly. So it's over here, a person acquires a woman, right? And people are saying, okay, you're not so beautiful, you're not so good, not such you could have done better. So therefore, one should not do that. So this is the way they used to go ahead and praise, right? The kala, they're still like right? Even without all this makeup and eyeshadow and all this, she's still beautiful, right? And when they gave smicha to Reb Zera, right? They would praise him this way, right? Very similarly, like right? Not with makeup, not with any. I think you have other radiance that's glowing from you, right? This is, he's naturally beautiful. Naturally, he shines like a Talmid Chacham. Speaking of smicha, right? This week's parsha, right? And when they gave smicha to the Rabban, to Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Sharlu Hachi, they said this. Kol mean din, the kol mean din samucho lan, right? So they said, when they gave anybody like these people, right? They should have smicha, right? Lo tismechu lana lo mean sarmisin, v'lo mean sarmitin. So they said, these people are worthy of getting a smicha. Rather, not somebody who's rags, like a smear to, right, and not people who are switch around things, and don't say the proper halachas, unlike Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, who are not like rags, who cover everything and they speak out the truth. Ramadan, some say, right? And not from the word chamisin, right? The Rashi says, right? They only say part of the reason, right? Or tamisin, right? There's a couple of them shot in Rashi, right? People who are empty people. That's a second shot, right? So those David that shouldn't get smicha, rather more people like Rab Ami and Rab Asi. Rabbi Yoki, Avi Yasi, Misif to the Beit Kesar, when he used to go from the Beit Medrash to the Beit Kesar. Nafkun amasa the Beit Kesar la'apei mashilin hachi, right? The amasa, the shifcha. The shifcha is the house of the Caesar, of the Kesar. They used to go ahead and praise, and they say, "Rabbi the Ame u'nibarna dumnase," right? He's the great leader of the people, right? He's the spokesman on behalf of this nation. Putzina dinahara, right? He's lit like he's radiance like a candle. Brich ma'asiach l'shalom, right? May you come in peace. Fine. Amru. So they said, Allah al Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai shahaya naitel bat shel hadas meraki lifnei kala. Used to go ahead and take a myrtle branch and dance right in front of the kala. The Eimer Kal Nova Chasuda, and he would say Kal Nova Chasuda, right? He would go like Beis Hillel and praise the Kal and the Kal in all different ways. From Shmuel Rav Yitzchak Merakeh Tlas, right? I guess he would dance with three of them, right? Or some sort of juggling act. And Amar Rab Zera Kamachsiv Gonzaba. You know, he's using the three of them or juggling whatever he's doing. So Rab Zera was not too fond of that practice. He says he's embarrassing the Rabbanim. However, Kinoch Nafshe Isik Amuda Denora Bein Didei Lukuli Alma. When Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak died, I guess it was like a fire, like sort of separating him and the other people. The Gemiri, the Laifsik Amuda Denora Elaki Lachad Bedara Lached Bedara. We learned that there's no one really gets a special treatment from Shemayim of some sort of fire separating them from the other people, right? Except maybe one or two per generation. So there's some backing to Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, right? So what did Rab Zera do to that? Rab Zera, so he says, Anyale Shituse Lasaba. Right, so he said, I guess his, that which is shitusa, right? That's which his branch, that this hadas that he was dancing with, that helped him out. Some say shitusa lasaba, right? Some say that his shtus helped him, right? That which he acts silly, right, or foolishly, right? Some say shitase lasaba, right? This was his shita also, got him this type of kibbutz. He used to go ahead and I guess put her the kala right on the shoulder and dance. Some of their should we go ahead and also right, then how you put on chairs, maybe just put the kalas on her shoulders. So Amarlu, right? If you put her, on your shoulders like a beam, like a piece of wood or something like that doesn't mean anything, then yeah, go ahead, right? Do it. Otherwise, maybe you should leave that practice to the to people like Rabach. And Omar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmanim Rav Yonasan mutar listakel b'fnei kala kol shiva kadei chava abala person's mutar listakel, right? Stakel is even to look with hana, right? Not just merely riyah, right? Even to be mistakel, to gaze with pleasure, in order to make her endearing to her chassan. However, the halacha is not like this practice. Fine. Taner Rabbanan. Around 7 lines up from the skinny lines. Taner Rabbanan ma'avirin es hameis mifnei akala. We remove the mace from the kala. Right. In other words, let's say we'll soon see that they're traveling together. So, which one comes first? So, right, who's the right away? So we move around the maze for the benefit of the kala. And each one of them, if they're going ahead and they're crossing paths and with the king, then you move them aside from the king. King has the right away. So Agrippas used to go ahead if he was going the same way as a bridal party. He would go away and stop and let them go first. And Chachamim praised them. They praised him as if it was a good practice. Even according to the opinion who holds steady, Nasi, who is Michael al Kvodo. So Melech Shemach al Kvodo ain't Kvodo Machal, right? So a king is not allowed to be Michael on his covenant. He has to, even though he might be a humble person, but he has to know he has the top seat. He can't be Michael al Kvodo. Damar Pasuk says, Toim says, Soim Tasim Alecha Melech, right? You should place upon yourselves a king. That his fear should constantly be on you. So even though he's a humble person, he wants to be humble. He can't act humble. He has to, act in a way of awe. So where it says precious drachim, is only a right of way. So right of way is not necessarily be Michael Kvodo, and therefore, it's not as bad. Fine.
He was at an intersection.
Intersection, yeah.
Which way, he
Right.
turned it the other way to make it look, he
Right.
gave up the
Right.
other way without making it appear that he was giving way. He said,
Right.
"Oh, I'm going right, not going that way." Fine. You know.
Yeah, so he avoided that. So it's all right. Pirzachim laniker shavar lefna ela ki'ilu hayat tzarich lefnei slice there. Right? It didn't appear that he was going out of his way or that he was being meichel akvoda. Fine. Taner Rabbanan, first wide line. Mevatlin Talmud Torah lo tzas hameis la'achnasas kal. We are mevatel Talmud Torah for the purposes of lo tzas hameis to go ahead and to take out to bury the dead or even to be malava the dead. And also la'achnasas kala, and to go ahead and to be mesameach chassan kala. Samar lavel Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi Eloi shaya mevatel Talmud Torah lo tzas hameis la'achnasas kala. So he would be mevatel. No, you missed it. He would be mevatel Talmud Torah and lo tzas hameis, and also la'achnasas kala. B'med dvar murim she'eini moi kol tzarko. When there weren't enough people there. Right, they didn't have the proper amount of people to either for the malavas hameis or chaskala. Aval yesh imo kol tzarko, but if they had plenty of people there, plenty of guests, ein mevatlin, they're not mevatel. Okay, the kama kol tzarko. Okay, so what is that number? So Amar Rav Shmuel Barini B'Shmei Drav Tleisar Alfei Gavra. Right, you have 12,000 people. Right, for this is not talking about weddings. We're talking about the Milava Ames, the Shisa Alpe Shipura, and 6,000 people blowing shofar. So if they already have the 12,000 people mourners and the 6,000 shofar blowers, then you can go ahead and say in the base medrash. Yeah, some say Tleisar Alpe Gavre. Some say it was 13,000. Minayim from them Shisa Alpe Shipura, 6,000 amongst the 13,000 to be shofar blowers. And Ula Amar Kigoyin the Chaitzi Gabram Be'avula Biad Sicha. In other words, basically, there's a line of the people from the area, all the I guess from the town all the way to the cemetery. Right, cemeteries are often just outside of town, so they would have basically full line. The line will be full from the city to the basic forest. Rav Sheish is Vitim Rabbi Yechon Amar Netilosa Kinisinasa. Right. The taking of the Torah, right, is just like the giving of the Torah. Just like the giving of the Torah was done to 600,000. So too, the giving, right? Okay, the taking is 600,000. So therefore, according to him, the number is not 12,000 or 13,000 or 18,000, whatever we said, right? It is 600,000 at this. Right, basically you always go. Right. Unless maybe by Ravadi Yosef, right? Yeah. Said and Bashishim Rabbi. Vahani Mili man the Kari Vitani. However, this is only one who is the Kari Vitani, right? He learned Mikra, he learned Mishnah, but he didn't go ahead and teach Talmidim. Aval, but Laman Damasni, the one who taught, less lay shiura. There is no shiur. In other words, even 600, even 600,000 is still not enough for one who taught, and basically it's infinite.
What's the number for Asna?
It does not go into the amount. Yeah, does not go in. Yeah.
How many were there for Rav Kanievsky?
Estimates. Was that Purim something or after Purim? I don't know. Hundreds of thousands.
So it's hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Moshe was on Shushan.
The Im Yesh, well, he was nifter on the Shushan Purim, right?
No, the Bible was on Shushan.
Who?
Moshe.
No, I was talking about. Yeah.
I was there on Shushan.
Yeah.
That was a lot of people.
Yeah. The Im Yesh Eidim Rizal. So going back to our Mishnah, right? We recall now we get back to the sugya at hand. Pashasa Peshahitir. Right, that was the big the sugya we started. So the Mishnah said the woman got divorced or widowed, and she says, "Okay, I got my 200." It says, "No, you only get 100." So if there's witnesses that said that she was yatsa behinuma, right? She went to behinuma as a way of that Basulos used to go ahead and get married, or if her head was uncovered because she was never married yet, then she gets 200. And then Rabbi Yechon Baruch added even chiluk klayos, even the giving out of nuts, also something that was done. So what? There wasn't a right. So we said it was a look at obviously. So the question, right? So the question was, the Gemara asked it from a different angle of how do you know she won't just do this in another basin? But obviously we were talking about where it was in a makom that they did they didn't write one, right? Or it was lost and there was no witnesses to it, right? Fine. So the Gemara says, top of the page of Yud Zayin Amud Beis, Bimish Eidim Shiyatza Binuma, so my Hinuma. So the Gemara answers, so Sarcham Bar Papa Mishmei Deziri Amar Tanura Diyasa, right? It's like an oven, right, made of a myrtle and some sort of canopy that was shaped like a tanura. And Rabbi Yechon Amar Karisa. So he says now Karisa de Menamna Ba Kalasa. Right, so something that she wears a veil, right? I give a veil that only Basulas wear that she, I guess, could fall asleep to be misnam name underneath. Fine. And Rabbi Yechon Baruch Yamei V'chulei Satan Yehuda. So he says Yehuda Raya B'Bav Almai. So over there, that was in Yehuda. He used to go ahead and throw klayos. What about in Bavel? Samarav. Darduge Demishcha Areishi the Rabbanon. He used to go ahead and put oil on the heads of the Rabbanon. I guess he discusses it. Amalei of popular by Mishcha the Kafuba. Come remember, they're putting oil in their hair, right? Like washing their hair. Samarlei. So Yasma, right? The orphan, basically he says, not such a compliment, right? Says Yasma, right? Did the Rabbanan, your mother not go ahead and also, give out oil, right? When it was your turn to go ahead and marry? And Kihato, the Rabbanan Yasik Rabbi Bar Ula, right? There was one of the Rabbanan who made a shidduch with the family of Rabbi Bar Ula. But Amrila, and some say it was not that family. Amrila, Rabbi Bar Ula, he says the Bray, how Rabban says that Rabbi Bar Ula made his son a shidduch with someone from the house from the Rabbanan, right? And what did they do? And they said the Dardeg Mishcha Areish the Rabbanan b'Shas Ma'isa. They went ahead and they basically placed oil on their heads during the chasna because it was once again. It was a basula getting married. So, Armalasa what about Tanamana? So, Tanya Rabbi say Armalasa less like kisne, right? They don't have any sort of the grains that they used to go ahead and give out. So that was a sign that was an almana, not a basula. Now, all right. Yeah, rice. So now let's go. We're gonna go into the next sugya, which is basically going to take us to the end of today's shir. So we had the case of the first case of the Mishnah, and on that, all of a sudden, Rabbi Yeshua says, "Okay, let's start talking about other claims." So Rabbi Yeshua says, and he would admit, even a case of one who says to his friend, "Sada zu shalavicha haisa." This field was your father's. However, I bought it from him. Right, you might not know. I bought it. Right, it was once your father's, and I bought it. So such a person is believed. However, because the peshas are peshihitir. But however, if there are witnesses that says that it was the father's field, then he comes and says, "Oh yeah, it was the father's. I bought it." Then he's eidan eman. Then he's not believed because he doesn't have the peshas or peshihitir. The same mouth that basically says it wasn't his is now saying it's his. Fine. So that was Rabbi Yeshua saying basically peshas or peshihitir. The listening by the Rabbi Yeshua, what about, why don't you say a case? Why does it say a case of someone's father's owning the field, right? Listening by the Rabbi Yeshua, in other words, the guy's not making a claim to him, right? Reuven goes over to Shimon, right? Shimon is not knocking on Reuven's door and saying, "Give my field." Reuven goes over to Shimon. He says, "This was your field. Not sure if you remember or not, and I bought it from you. And I bought it from you," right? So why didn't our Mishnah deal with that case? Why didn't our Mishnah deal with specifically the case of one's father, right? Not a person himself. So where I answers, because he wanted the case of the Seifa. If there are witnesses that says, "Hey, that field was Shimon's father," and he says, "No, I bought it off Shimon's father." Right? He's not believed. Now, what is the scenario there? Now, when it comes to owning fields, right, it's something unique that a person, let's say, doesn't necessarily have his title, right? Doesn't have title or doesn't have a sale document. but he's been working that field for many years, right? At least 3 years, right? As a chazaka, he's working the field, and no one's basically made any claims. So the fact that he's working a field for at least 3 years, a chazaka, right? So, and no one's made a claim, hey, get off my field. So that's basically proof that that's his field. Now, if we're talking,
Obviously, it's not a case of chazaka. Otherwise, he would have already had that.
so let's see. So now the one wants to know, what's the case where the person is not believed? Now remember, the Mishnah says that the second case was if witnesses testified that it was the father's field, and the guy makes the claim, no, I bought it off him. What case is he not believed? So, if he was eating there for many years on this field that was once the father's, and he says, I bought it off him, and he's been working the field for 5 years, right? Why is he not believed? He's been on the field for 5 years. He's been working it every single year. No one's made any claims against him. Obviously, it's his. And if he hasn't been on the field at all, he hasn't done the 3 years, it's obvious he's not believed. A person's not believed, it's like stolen. So if that's the case, Gabi Avyonami. So let's say by the father also, if it's his father's field and he's out there for 3 years, why is it not believed? And if he hasn't eaten there at all, obviously he's not believed. So Gemara says, so why specifically the case of this field was your father's and not this field was yours? So Bishlam Agavi Avi Mishkachas, I know you can find a case, could go. The first 2 years that he worked the field, that he was working it was while the father was alive. The achas b'chayi b'no, and then the third and final year, the father died, and the son inherited his father's assets. And he worked the field that third year in front of the deceased's son. One cannot be machzik the nechasim of a katan, right? Even if he grows older. So in other words, that even though the 30 knows you need 3 years to give the proper owner the ability to protest. Over here, the first 2 years, the father had the ability to protest and never protested. The third year, the father wasn't around, it was the son.
Didn't they have a claim?
In other words, basically it's teaching us, the concept of Sunsi, that a son doesn't know what to protest, what to not protest. So therefore, he didn't really have a third year, right, to get a chazaka, because the third year was performed, right, with the son, who basically has no idea of the father's purchases.
Didn't they have a claim?
What's that? What was that? So even says, even if he was a katan, and then he was a filu higdil, even if he gets older, yeah, same thing. Right. So soon see that he in terms of the nechasim of his father, he's like a katan dog.
His time is like achtiha, right? He said, I bought it.
Right.
He said, I bought it with chazaka.
I bought it years ago. I bought it 3 years ago. I've been on the field ever since.
Right. So why is?
So in this case, the reason why he's not believed, even though witnesses say that it was the father's, right, and he says, I bought it. What's your proof you bought it? I've been on for 3 years. No, you only been on for 2 years. In the third year.
Yeah, but that's a case. That's only a case of chazaka. The 2 years and the third years.
Right.
But he's kind of, isn't it, that I bought it straight out, or that I bought it as a proof is that he's.
Well, you buy it and then you work the field. You buy it. Well, he had the 3 years with him. He had the 3 years with him, but the problem was he didn't have
It's a form of kinyan on its own. Chazaka is a form of kinyan.
Right.
It's not a raya that I bought.
No, but you don't just right. No. Right. But he's saying I purchased it, and then I've been using the field ever since I purchased it. So we're saying no, you haven't used the field for 3 years. If you had a chazaka, we would believe you, but you don't have a chazaka. This is what I mean. I've been on for the last 3 years since COVID. It's been 3 years. 2000. No, but because the third year, right, the father wasn't around anymore to protest. The son was there. The son didn't know to protest. So therefore, you don't have a chazaka. You don't have a chazaka. We have witnesses saying it was his father's, and you might say you bought it, but you got no proof.
Didn't they have?
No, he's
Didn't
required.
they have claims officers then?
I guess.
Put in
Yeah,
a claim. You know what I mean? And then
Title
it's
search.
yours.
Title
Yeah,
search.
then it's yours. That would be easy.
Yeah, we'll soon see the next mission talks about shtaros and kiyum shtaros and yeah.
No, he's required to keep a star for 3 years. But after the 3 years, he's not responsible to hold on to the star. The star.
I mean, it's his best. I mean, either if he's been working the field in front of others and he's a chazaka, but if he doesn't have proof it's his, he better keep that star, right? Right. Right. Yeah. So, but over there, I guess there are 3 years. Yeah.
5 years.
25 years. Person has a field, he didn't buy,
Right.
he just used the field for 25 years.
Water's water.
It's safe.
So Rav Huna, so the Gemara says, okay, so that's what Rav Huna was saying. Rav Huna masisna slash mina, right? So he's coming. So what was Rav Huna's chiddush over there? That Emach Sigman is say cut in the field. Is he trying to teach us what our Mishnah is saying? So Ibo say Rav Huna, do you get the masisna kamar? Either he's telling us what the Mishnah is saying. Ibo say I feel higdil kamash malon. Even if he's older, right? If he goes older, nevertheless, he's still considered to be like a child, right?
So it's not like he was 12 and became 13. He was 30. You're saying that even that would be.
Right, or even if it was a number of years. Right, even if it was a number of years, right. Fine. Now, the least nibadide. Why don't we say that the Mishnah is still talking about the guy, the dide, not the father? The 2 years he was in front of him. In other words, he says, Reuven goes to Shimon and says, this was your field, by the way, and I bought it from you. So I'm still trying to, I didn't see the in terms of, so I mean, Tosfos points out that it's like a bari or bari thing. The guy says it's not your field, and he says no, it was your field. I guess I don't know. The guy, there's probably so many, he's always buying and selling. Maybe he doesn't remember. Fine. He was using the fields 2 years in front of Shimon. The achas in the 3rd year, why didn't he have a chazak with him? Shaloi b'fanav, right? It was not in front of the Kagan Shabarach. That the Shimon had to run away for whatever reason. So Reuven never used the field for 3 years in front of Shimon. Why did he run away? So Baruch Machmas Mai. The Baruch Machmas Nefashos. If it's the fact that he ran away, in other words, because his life was threatened. So Pshita, it's obvious Deloy Mammon, right? Deloy Matzi Machi, right? It's obvious, in other words, that he is not believed to say that I bought the field because he never used it for 3 years of chazaka, because the guy, Mamash, was an Einus. He had to run for his life. And Shimon wasn't there around the 3rd year to protest Reuven using the land. And so, however, if he ran, let's say, for money, he was being threatened, right? We're going to take away all your property if you don't do this, whatever it was, and he had to run away to save his money. So he still should have somehow found a way to make a protest that the guy is using his land. That even though the guy is not there, he can go ahead and send messages that he's protesting in another city, and other people see him protest. That's considered to be a good protest, even though the other guy is not around. There are 3 lands when it comes to Chazaka, Yehuda, Ve'er Yarden, V'Galil. There's 3 regions when it comes to Chazaka. One is the Yehuda, the other one is the Eber Yarden, and the other one is the Galil. So Hayab Yehuda Galil. If a person was in Yehuda and the person made a chazaka on his property in the Galil, so he wasn't around, or Yehuda, or he was in the Galil and he made the chazaka in Yehuda, Eino chazaka. It's not considered to be a chazaka because you have to make a chazaka when you're using the land in front of the potential person who would make a macha, right? In a chazaka, ima b'Medina, until he's in the same region. And they asked her there, Mike Saver, I understand what is the old. If he holds that you don't have to be in the presence in order to make a macha, afilu b'Yehuda, the Galil Nami, even if one's in Yehuda, the other one's in the Galil, you can make a macha there. And if it was you hold that macha shelo b'fanav, it's not considered macha. Afilu Yehuda b'Yehuda Nami, even if he's in 2 different towns in Yehuda, right? That should be, that shouldn't qualify as establishing your chazaka, right? Because he doesn't make a machader because he's shalom b'fanav. So Amar Rabbi Abba Ramnabel li'elam ksavir macha shalom b'fanav havi macha. Really, a macha shalom b'fanav is considered to be a macha. In other words, that he doesn't have to be there. So if he was barach umasnisen in our Mishnah b'shas chirum shanu, during a time of war. Now, during a time of war, so therefore, the word doesn't get out. So if you use it for 2 years, and the third time the word doesn't get out, so therefore, since the word doesn't get out, right, it's not he's not able to go ahead and make a macha in that third year when Reuven is using this land that he allegedly claimed that he bought it off Shimon. So okay, go back to the case of Yehuda V'Gola. What was the Mishnah teaching over there? Yehuda V'Gola to Nakat. The stam Yehuda V'Gola Kashas Chirim Dov. That stam, if you're in Yehuda and the other parties in the Galil, then the word doesn't really travel. It's just like during times of war where the word doesn't travel, and therefore you can't really make a macha, a protest that a person is using the land. So too, these provinces, even during a time of peace, are like macha. But if you're within the same province, you're both within Yehuda, then you make a protest that someone's on your land, and you tell others, "Hey, this guy's using my land for I can't be there because he's 50 miles away." Then that would qualify as making a macha and preventing a chazaka to be enforced. I v'lisni moide Rabbi Yeshua v'omer lechavero mana levisi mimcha upratirucha shu neman. So what about this case? Why does it say like this case? Why are we talking about the barf land? What about a case of this? He tells his friend, I borrowed money from you, but I paid you back. Shehu Neman. Right? In that case, he's believed. So if you want to talk about, instead of bringing the father into the scenario, let's just say this. A person has Peshas or Peshiter. Oh, by the way, I borrowed money from you, but I paid you back. So Gemara says, no, because the Sefer says, Im yesh edim shu loiv mimenu hu omer prativ einu neman. Right? So if that's the case, then what would the Sefer look like? The Sefer would look like this. If there were witnesses that said he borrowed money, and the guy said, I paid you back, it would be Eino Neman, right? Rabbi Yeshua said in this case, Eino Neman, because you lose your Peshas or Pesheiter, because other people were the ones who said that there was a loan.
Could say that there was a loan.
No, they
Even
did
if
say.
they're not present.
They did say. What do you mean?
Oh,
They did say. Yeah, that's the case. That it was the identical case of the Mishnah. But you can't say Eino Neman in that case. Why? One who goes ahead and lends money to his friend in front of witnesses. He doesn't have to go ahead and pay back in front of witnesses, right? We want to go ahead and, we want to go, better get a receipt, right? But we want to go ahead and not, if we have all these requirements by lenders, at some point lenders are to say, I'm not going to start lending money anymore because I got to find witnesses and sign documents. It's too big a headache. Sorry, I would have lent you $100, but I'm just, So therefore, this halacha that so why isn't he believed? He should be neman, even if others say, yes, we saw you lend the money, right? So then he goes out and gives the money. Right. So the guy has that. Well, here's the star. If you would have paid me back, you would have torn it. I would have, you would have taken the star from me. You wouldn't have let me just hold on to the star, or just, or I have a receipt, right? You show me something. You wouldn't have just pay me back without anything. Granted, you don't need witnesses, but you would have taken care of your document issue. I listening Rabbi Yeshua. I'm the chavera mana leavicha biyad b'achtiv pras shehu neman. What about this case? He says to his friend that your father had, right? Your father had money in my hands. I borrowed money from him, and I used half of it. I paid him half back, right? I paid him half back. Now, this case over here, right? It's not right. No, we'll soon see. It's not exact. Maybe let's look at Rashi for 1 second. Right. I guess the wide line of Rashi, the beginning of skin and lines, says Prativ Chatziv, I paid back half. That Shu Neman, he's believed below Shvu without a Shvu, Hogel ain't sure Shachar Lefanav. Because as this expression we saw earlier, he doesn't have the shechted animal in front of him. In other words, it's not like the guy comes to him and makes the claim, says, hey, I lent you $100. He says, I already paid you back 50, right? He's telling him, by the way, I borrowed $100 from your father and I paid him back 50. So I still owe you guys $50, right? So no, it's not a case of Moed Mixes where he's required to make a shvuah, right? We'll soon see the svar of that. Rather, because this is the case of there was no claim against him and his defense was Moed Mixes. Over here, Right. So in other words, why do we list this case? Right? At least back in the Gemara. So liba the man according to liba the Rabbanon. Right? So they say no. If this is according to the Rabbanon, so they say that this is a case of a Meshi Aveda, where one is completely pater. And Eli the Rebbe Zeben Yaakov, no, completely pater to make any sort of shvua. And Eli the Rebbe Zeben Yaakov, Hamar shvua boy, he has to go ahead and he should be required to make a shvua. Right? And where do we see this? The Tanya and the Rebbe Zeben Yaakov Aimer. Pamim she'adam nishba al tainus asma. There are times when a person can basically come and be a nice guy and say, be honest and step forward without being claimed against. And he's required to make a shvua. Ketzad, manalavicha biyadi, vachticha pras, hareza nishba. V'zehu shenishba al tainus atzmo. Right? He says, hey, by the way, your father gave me $100. I paid it back 50. And this is a case of where he has to make a shvua. From right, well, and this is a shvua al tainus asma on his own claim. In other words, it wasn't like something was claimed of him. He came and did the right thing, but nevertheless, we want to make sure that you're telling the truth.
Wait, if somebody else comes and makes a taina,
No,
he said
he's the one who came forward. This is tainus asma.
taina satzma,
Reuben
and
came
he
and
has
said
to
that.
make a shvua.
Yes.
On the mikzah.
No. Mother mixes means there's a claim against you, and I'm admitting I still owe you some, right? I agree, I owe you money, but not as much as you claim I owe you. That's motor mixes. This is not motor mixes. This is tainus asma, right? He doesn't have a claim against him. So even in this case, he has to make a shvua according to Ezra Yaakov. The Chachamim Eino El Kamesha Vedu Pater. According to the Mesha Veda, and therefore he's Pater. So just going back to that case, Rabbi Ezra Yaakov, let's say Mesha Veda, Pater. He holds a person. Let's say he finds a lost item, right? And he says, this is what I found, right? The person has to make a shvua that he doesn't, he didn't keep any of the money or whatever it was. It's nothing that he took, right? Mesha Veda Pater. So Amarav, so it says, Batono Kat. Right? We're talking about a case of, right, when I guess a katan goes ahead and makes a claim against him. In other words, the katan comes to go ahead and make a claim. And right. So this is a katan. In other words, in this case, right, as we'll soon see the next line. Right.
The word for the cotton saying, I saw you give them you the money.
Right. Right. So even before that, we get to the next step. So even at this point, right? So he says, yes, he does hold the Mesha Veda. But this case over here wasn't referring to a classic case of Mesha Veda. There was really a claim against him, but that claim was done by a katan, by a minor. And therefore, it's not a real claim. It's not a claim against him that he has to go ahead and to fully defend himself. Right? Right? So it says, one does not go ahead and make a claim, right? From you don't make a shvua on a claim from a chereshot of a katan. So we don't give credence to their claims because he's a minor. So my katan gadol. So what is this katan here? No, really you do make. So why do you make a shvua in this case? He's really a gadol, right? V'mai karei katan. Why is he called a katan here? Right? To the gabe mile David katan, right? Because it matters to the father. He doesn't know. Right? He's seeing, like you said, he saw his father do something. His son. He heard whatever, right? So therefore, he doesn't exactly know what was going on. He wasn't privy to every conversation, and therefore, perhaps it was paid back halfway or fully or whatever it was. So he can't necessarily go ahead and make a claim to the guy that says, "Hey, Dad gave you $100." He said, "Yeah, but you did, but I gave $50." So that is not considered to be a case of Mesha Veda. That's not a full claim, but as a partial claim, and therefore that was the machlokas between Rabbi Ezra ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan. See? No, you're right. There are cases like that when the apotropos, right? He's so Yihachi Tanis Atzmo, Tanis Acherimu. If that's the case, right? This is really considered to be. This is not Tanis Atzmo. The person's making a claim. This guy is making a claim. This 20-year-old's making a claim for his 50-year-old dad. Tanis Atzmo, Tanis Acherimu. So when I says Tanis Acherimu, but does Atzmo? So we say, no, what does it mean? So in case of Tainus Acher, Bodas Asmo, right? In other words, it's really other people making a time, but it's his own admission. Since it's his admission that really qualifies it, so therefore it's considered to be Hoyas Asmo. So, right? So in this case, right? So no, that's what gives us credence. No, but other cases, because they're the Baldover who's involved, but the 20-year-old is not saying I lent you money.
Right.
He's going to hearsay, right? So it doesn't have
Who's
to.
coming first, then the katan slash
Right.
is coming, says, someone told me that you borrowed
Right,
$100.
right. So it's not real apes. It's not right,
It's not a real time then either.
right. So therefore, so that's asma, right? So it says in this case. So Gemara says, "Kutan also." Right, Tanis Achem, but there's asma. So this is like so we're saying, like, what do you mean? All cases are, the
That's really what a motive
Right.
is.
right. There's a claim against him, and he's admitting, yeah, here's the claim. So he says, no, Ella Hacha b'deravo kamifli. Rather, over here we're talking about cotton claims, right? And we said earlier that Einish Bayin al Tainus cotton, that you don't make a shvua on a case of cotton, right? So over here, what's the reason why we say normally in Modim Mixes Hataina Yishava? That a person, let's say, has a claim against him, and he's Modim Mixes. He agrees, he admits to have it. Yes, I owe you money, but not as much as you claim. Why? Chazaka ein adam meis panav b'fnei baal. Person wouldn't have the audacity to say never happened. Right? I don't know what you're talking about, right? No one has that audacity, right? You borrowed money from me. Yeah, I borrowed money, but I didn't borrow that much. I only borrowed, $50. He really wants to go ahead and deny all of it. Right? Person is not such a chutzpan, right? That he would go ahead and say, hey, I didn't get anything. Right, and really, he wants to admit to all of it, right? Okay, he sort of wants to do the right thing. He says, he just wants to sort of like buy himself some time, right? Right, and it says, okay, I'll just buy myself time, by either denying it, right, and therefore, but really, I want to pay him back everything, right? I just need to give myself more time. Rabbi Shmuel, and therefore the Torah says he should go ahead and make a shvuah. In order that he should admit to all of it. In other words, if he has to make a shvuah, then he's gonna come clean and say, okay, I still owe you the $100. It wasn't 50. And Rabbi and Yaakov Savar loishnab b'no eino meis. Rabbi Ezra ben Yaakov says it doesn't matter if it's in front of the original lender or in front of his son. A person would not have the audacity to go ahead and deny. Therefore, it's not a case of Meish Veda. Rabbanan Sabri, right? In front of him, right? Then he won't go ahead and fully deny. However, when it comes to son, Meis, right? He would have the audacity to know, Hayes, by the fact that he actually admitted something, then therefore Meish Veda. Therefore, you should believe him because if he wasn't telling the truth, he would have just denied it. He would have no problem going to sleep at night with denying the loan from the son. It wasn't like the son didn't do him a favor. It was the father who did him a favor. So therefore, right, when he says, oh, yeah, I owe your father still $50. So therefore, we do believe him, and therefore he's like Neisha Veda, and therefore he wouldn't have had to make a claim of a shua of mother mixes.
So when we say here that the machlokas is in the Rabbah, right?
So right, so
that's talking about Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and Chacham. That it's not a case of Meshiva Veda versus you don't make a shua at all.
So right.
Right? So rather than that, but that is really what it says.
No, that's what the machlokas is over there.
So which machlokas is that?
That's what machlokas are Eliezer ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan.
Right, but so now it says the real machlokas is only been with Rabbi's thing.
Right, so that was what Rabbah says. Right. In other words, they're arguing in that which Rabbah taught, right? In other words, what's the reason why Modem Mixus is, what's the reason for Modem Mixus? Because a person really wants to go ahead and he won't deny it all, but he wants to pay it all, so he just sort of buys himself time. So therefore we make him a shvuah. So one says, so according to Eliezer ben Yaakov, in this case, the same svara applies. The person wouldn't really deny to the son. So that which is admitting part of it, he really might owe more. So let's make him make a shvuah. According to Rabbanan, the guys will sleep well at night with denying it all. So that which he says, I owe you some, believe him. He doesn't need to make a shvuah. So that's the machlokes over there. And then all these cases, it just comes back to us. And as we couldn't use this case in our Mishnah.
Case of Yeshiva Beta, because when it comes to the kid,
He has no issue of lying straight to his face. He doesn't feel like he owes him his honesty. Fine, very good. All right, I'm still putting together else.
I'm slow.
Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says once again on the same topic of Rabbi Yeshua. Ha'edim she'amru k'sav yadeinu zeh aval nusim hayinu katanim hayinu psuli edus hayinu. So if you have, let's say, a loan document, and they're trying to confirm the signatures. Now, normally based on either where they have witnesses to the signatures or they have other documents and based in with the same signatures, they were to confirm it. So witnesses are going to confirm, yes, this is our signature. However, we were forced, right? We were forced to sign on it. So in other words, it didn't really take place. This loan didn't take place. It says this guy lends him $1,000 and our names are signed on there, but we didn't see any of the transaction. And we were forced, either anusim we were forced, we'll soon see why, or we were ketanim, we were younger, right? Or psuli edus, we were apostle edus at the time. Hare elu namanim. They are believed. Why? Since they're the ones who are saying this is our signature, but they're saying it's not our, believe me that it's not, there wasn't good document. All right. However, if we didn't go ahead and establish that this is their authentic signatures from these witnesses, rather there's another good witnesses that says, yes, that's their signature. Or we had, let's say, based on other court documents with these guys' signatures, and we say, okay, it must be a good star. And they say, oh, no, but we were in this time where we were psuli edus or ketanim. Then they're not believed because they don't have peshasar peshita. Zok the Gemara. Only talking about, we'll soon have to understand this in a minute. So he says we were honest from machmas mamon, right? From money, right? From money matters, we were forced. They were trying to, they were going to steal from us if we didn't do it. They take away all our money. Strong arm us. Only then in the beginning, right? Or in the end, but they're not believed, right? When it's for money. But if they said that our lives were in danger and we had to sign, then they're believed. So, Amalei Rava, Kol Kamine, can they do this? Once they go ahead and sign the document, right? That's like testimony. They're testifying that this person borrowed $1,000, right? Now they're coming in 2 years later on their testimony and saying, yeah, we were forced to sign. So why are they believed to say, right, that it's like they're changing, right? They're changing their testimony. Right, but we're talking about maybe when you say when you testify once in Beis Din, and you can't come the next day and change your story, right? Once you testify, that's your testimony, right? You can't come back and change it. Maybe that's only talking about al-peh, right? Verbally. But a shtar, low. But maybe if I sign one day a shtar, and then a year later I come back and I say, oh, by the way, that shtar is wrong. So testifying on that shtar, maybe it's different. But people, witnesses that testify, that sign on a shtar, it's like they were interrogated, their testimony in Beis Din, and this is their statement. Do you have a statement, sir? Yes, my statement is I signed this document, and therefore that's my first statement. So you can't come back later on and change what you said. So Ella ki Itamar, rather, what was the statement is going on a different part? Ella is going the ratio Itamar. All right. In other words, let's put it on our caps again. Hare elu nemana. We say in the Mishnah when the witnesses come and say, yes, this was our signature. However, they're the ones who are authenticating their signature. This was their signature. However, we were forced. They're believed, right? Hare elu nemana. And on that, when they're believed, they're only believed to say our lives were in danger, and that's why we signed upon it. But if they say, hey, they were trying to blackmail us, whatever it was, they were going to steal our money. We didn't sign, so we went ahead and signed. Ain't that money? Did I believe why? My time. Ain't other mesim asma Russian person, right? Cannot go ahead and make himself a Russian. Now, what does this mean? Let's just look at Rashi, famous Rashi in this case, right? Ain't other mesim asma Russia. It's the third wide line of Rashi. Ain't no nema livsos asmo. Right? A person is not nema to passel himself. So he's basically saying, I lied and I did this avera by signing falsely to save myself $150. Right? He's basically saying, I'm a wicked person. I'm a Russia. So he's not nema to passel himself from his chesed kashrus. Right? The karav who eitzel asmo, that he's testifying himself and he's related to himself by being himself. Right? He's a karav asa. The karav pasel leidus. And therefore, a karas paslatus. So in other words, since he's testifying himself on the validity of himself, basically saying, I'm a bad person, we don't believe him because he's a karov. And a karov is not able to go ahead and testify, right? So according to Rashi, right, he's saying that the reason he's not believed is because when it comes to making himself a Rasha, he's testifying about himself, he's a karov. And therefore, a karov is not believed to pasel himself. So therefore, going back to Rabbi Chama's statement, when they say, yes, this was our signature, but we were forced, they can't say we were forced for money, because if they're forced for money, that means you're just saying you're a Russia, and we don't believe that part of your edus. That means that it would stand. But if he said, hey, we signed up, but we were forced because he held a gun to our head, now they're believed. That's nema. So Taner Rabbanan, Divrei Rabbi Meir. They're not believed to pass themselves, Divrei Meir. Chaim says they are nema, right? And this is basically going the case of when they say that we had a gun to our head. So our Meir actually argues with our Mishnah. He says they're not believed to passel, Divrei Meir. So according to the Rabbanan, the reason why they're believed to say, yes, this was our signature. We're authenticating the signature. However, we were forced, we had a gun to our head. So they're believed because of the concept of Pesh Asar Hu HaPesh Yitir. Ela Meir, according to Meir, my time, why according to Meir are they not believed? So Bishlam Psule Edus, right? Milva Gufa Mikara Midak Daik. Omichtam. So let's say in the case of Psuli Edus, so a person is about to lend money. So don't you think he's going to go ahead and find himself, people aren't Psuli Edus, right? He's not going to find himself gamblers, right? Gamblers are Psuli Edus, right? He's not going to have gamblers on it. So when the people say we are gamblers, right, doesn't really make sense. Right? There ain't an eman, because why would a guy who's lending $100,000 get Psuli Edus? Right. Or Ketanim Nami, or also Ketanim signing the shot. They're saying, yeah, we signed, but we were Ketanim at the time. They're not believed. Why they're not believed? Also, Reish Lakish, Chazaka, 10th page, Ein Adam, Chazal Shtar Elim Kain, that's the Begadol. Right? We have a Chazaka that a person wouldn't go ahead and sign a shtar if they were cotton. So Ella Nusim.
That we wouldn't let them do it, or they wouldn't do it.
So it says Chazaka Ein Edim Chayzman Al Shtar Elim. It says there that the witnesses wouldn't sign, right? But it means they wouldn't be allowed to sign. In other words, no one would allow them to sign. It's Chazaka, right?
They wouldn't be signed.
Right, they wouldn't be signed. In other words, people wouldn't, use them. Yeah, right. But right. So Chayzman Al Shtar says in Edim Chayzman Al Shtar. It says this Chazaka that witnesses, right? The witnesses wouldn't sign unless they were of age, right? Elo anusim, but if they're anus, my time. Why, when they say we were anusim, right? Are they not believed? Why can't they say it? So my time. Rav Chizak Savar Amer Edim Shamar Lahem Chiznu Sheker V'Altiharu Yaharog V'Chasnu Sheker. Witnesses are told either sign falsely, right, or I'll kill you, right? Prevent yourself from being killed by signing falsely. They should give up their life and not sign the shtar. Shamalei Rava Hashta Ilu also the common. What are you talking? People come forth, to decide. Right? Go ahead and sign and don't be killed. Nothing stands, right, before the Pikuach Nefesh saving one's life, except for the big three, the big cardinal sins. And illicit relations, and then murder. Bilvad, except those. So it says no. So right? So now that they sign, you say, why did you sign? Sel Tarameir, Kid Rav Huna Amarav. Right? The reason I remember Rav, Dom Rav Huna Amarav, Maidim Shashakasa, Ain Sich Lekaim. Once you go ahead, right, and says that, right, that the star, right, that he admitted to the star, then you don't need verification. In other words, since this star doesn't need verification, therefore, we didn't need their first place. We didn't need their pesha asar. We didn't need the fact that them say, yes, this is our signature. In other words, it did not need to be authenticated, right? Right. So therefore, in other words, once it was signed and the witnesses were signed and there's people on it, you don't need to authenticate the signatures, right? So that people say, yes, there was, yes, these people signed it, right? And then once they say, yes, there are witnesses that this document was signed by these people. We don't need to authenticate their signatures because once they say it was signed by Adam, then that's good enough. We don't need to authenticate it. And therefore, since it doesn't need to be authenticated, they lose out the Pesha or Pesha there. And therefore, we don't believe them when they say we were Anusim Hainu Machmas Mamon.
It's almost kind of like a reverse of Peshasa.
Right.
The guy says, I wrote the document.
They lose the power. Right. The guy says, I borrowed money. Yeah, right. So once you have that, right? If we have time for the last Rashi, or all right. So the last Rashi gets into this, right? Right. It says the Lovid, once the Lovid admits to the star, right, then you don't need to authenticate the signatures. And since that's the case, so therefore the Bauer already is the star, so therefore we don't need to authenticate the signatures. All right, we'll stop here. We will continue from here.